Okay, the Infrastructure Committee is now open and in public session. For anyone joining us, we've just taken we just had a discussion with the Assembly Bill Clerk around the bill that we are considering at committee, which is the Water Sustainable Drainage and Flood Management Bill. For anyone in the public gallery, they can use mobile devices, but as we know, there's no recording or photography in the committee session. And if members are content with that, we will proceed on through the agenda. Item 2 is simply apologies. Do we have any apologies?
Just Peter.
Just Peter. That's fine. Okay. Members content with that. Then declarations of interest. Can I remind members that they're obliged to declare any relevant financial or other interest which might reasonably be thought by others to influence their approach to the matters under consideration by this committee. Any members who have interests to declare in relation to today's business should do now, or when the matter arises. Does anyone have any interest they wish to declare? No. Okay, that's great.
Just to point out, given that we're members of a line member of PSA and we do numerous reports into capital projects and stuff,
Okay. No,
do we have to declare? I mean, I'm registered now because there's a lot of things come up, obviously. So
Or just likewise, if just joined the PAC.
no, because we deal with these issues then. So just registered anyway.
Can that be a standing thing that we accept that,
yeah.
Michael, or do they declare every?
Yes, it can.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know what's relevant. Just
Can be
put
what's
them
through?
as- just-
Yeah, if you're on another committee that's dealing with something similar,
No, they raise all the time,
We'll,
so it's
we'll
dealing
take
with-
that as you stay in it for all time.
Yes, so we don't have to.
You don't have to repeat it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
every
100%.
week.
That's useful.
Unless
Thank
there's
you.
something specific you're discussing on the PAC.
Yeah,
that's
no, absolutely.
directly
Unless
related
there's
to
a
what we're doing
specific
today.
report, we'll say at the time. Yeah.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Okay.
Thank you, Stephen and Cahill. Okay, so that takes us on to chairperson's business, and I want to congratulate my colleague and good friend, Deborah, who's had a baby girl, Olivia, on the 17th of September. And I'm sure the committee would want to extend its congratulations to Deborah and Robert. I suspect Deborah did all the hard work. I think Robert probably just did a bit of hand-holding. If committee are agreed, could we maybe write out maybe even a card? A card might be more appropriate to send Robert, Deborah and Olivia our best wishes. Again, if Deborah's watching in, well done, Deborah. That's 2 sessions in a row. The media stories are flowing and you're not even at committee. That's exactly what we want to try and achieve. So if you're watching in, our best wishes. I would, just another couple of small issues just on chairperson's business. We did have a debate about the A5 earlier in the week, and during that I raised an issue. Interested to see what committee's view on this is, and I'll actually just read out the Justice McAlinden's judgment at paragraph 200. And it states, the DFI statement on the A5 does not detail or contain any reference to any such evidence being provided by DAERA, and in contrast with the evidence provided by DFE, at the hearing of this matter, nothing was forthcoming from DAERA to indicate that prior to the DFI making its decision, it had provided DFI with any form of evidence or evidence-based assurance. So I'm going to ask whether committee would be content to write to the DFI Minister and the DAERA Minister and ask why there was nothing provided by the DAERA Minister in terms of evidence or assurance. That seems to me to be a reasonable thing. I think, certainly in terms of the debate, I think that was something key that came out. Are committee content to do that?
And yeah.
Happy enough? Okay. The only other thing I had was just trust ports, and again, for some of us, we're very new to this committee, somebody had sort of raised this issue with me. My understanding on trust ports is that this was discussed, and I'll ask really committee members who've been here a little bit longer than I have, which is some of them, that trust ports did come up reasonably recently in committee, and I think actually on the 10th of September, our committee content just to keep a watching brief on DFI and trust ports. I think that's an important piece of prospective legislation, but I just thought I'd just raise that. My understanding is that the executive will probably bring that forward, so I would just keep a watching brief on that one. Are members content with that?
Right.
Yeah. That's all chairperson's business. Do we have any members, if they have any matters arising from the previous meeting? Silence I'll take as a no. We have draft minutes on page 46. Members content that the minutes are a true and accurate reflection of the meeting on the 17th of September. Everyone happy enough?
Right.
Okay, in that case, I will sign the minutes. That's great. And that takes us on the core. I'm going to take you to page 56 in the first instance, which is a correspondence memo. And unfortunately, my computer has just gone backwards there. The action on 56, sorry, Michael, just remind me what that is.
So on page 56, the correspondence menu.
Yeah.
So the first one was we had a proposal for a further joint concurrent meeting on the A5 for the Western Transport Corridor.
Yep.
From the Committee for Agriculture, Environment and Rural Affairs.
That's fine. So our committee agreed to engage with the clerk from DAERA to ascertain the nature of any further collaboration based on this and report back to the committee. We'll have enough of that.
I think, Chair, I think it would be useful. We've had a number of them previously, and I've certainly found them to be useful. And given the real issues that are on the ground in that area, particularly confusion for landowners and everybody involved with it, I think it would be timely.
Nicola, sorry, yes, go ahead. Apologies, Nicola.
Thank you, Chair. Listen, largely I think it's a good idea to run these kind of concurrent meetings generally to be working collaboratively. But when there is the appeal ongoing, and I know the Minister during the A5 debate on Monday mentioned the fact that her department officials were working alongside farmers about other arrangements with land. I'm just not sure if it's the right time for it. So maybe a letter back to them, kind of asking the detail of it, would be more appropriate just for right now.
Okay, that's fine. Do we have any other views on that? Okay. So Nicola, just to clarify, you're suggesting writing, is that right?
Liam, what did you suggest there, Chair?
I think it was actually Stephen was Stephen.
No, but did you have a suggestion initially?
I did. Well, in chairperson's business, I was suggesting that we write quite specifically to DAERA and DFI on paragraph 200 of the judgment. So my understanding would be that they could comment on that because it reflects something that's in the past. It'll not impact on any future judgment. Stephen was just coming in on the item that we were just talking about, which is the core on page 60.
Yeah. Did you have a suggestion on that piece of correspondence though?
If I may, you suggested that I speak to the clerk to the Agriculture Committee just to check out the detail of what they were proposing.
Okay, yeah, which I'd be happy with.
Okay. Stephen?
Yeah, just the clerk from the DAERA committee looks like she's saying, they feel it would be useful to meet concurrently again to continue the good work already achieved. So I would certainly be in that mind.
Any agreed?
Agreed.
Yeah. Okay. At page 143, then, if I can take you to that is core from the Committee for Finance, seeking the view of the Infrastructure Committee as to the use of negative resolution as a form of resolution used to make regulations to provide for a fee to be charged for smart passes under clause 17 of the Administrative and Financial Provisions Bill. And I'm noting here that statutory rules are subject to negative provision and are not formally voted on by the Assembly. In terms of how we take this forward, would committee be agreed to ask the clerk to engage with the clerk of the Committee for Finance in the first instance to inform members' views on this, so we have a bit of engagement with finance, and then we come back to this? Yeah, members happy enough? Okay. Page 257 then, we have CORE from the Construction Employers Federation inviting the committee to view an example of a SUD scheme, and I haven't seen a SUD scheme. Some members might have. Our committee happy enough to get back to the Construction Employers Federation and see if we can arrange that. And not all members would need to go on that, but it'll be certainly optional.
I think that would be a trip, a visit
Day out,
external
yeah.
to the committee meeting. Obviously, it wouldn't be like, you know, in the past we've went to like NI Water and we've combined the two, but would this be sort of a just out and see it as opposed to?
Members were content, and if we checked out what facilities might be available in the vicinity, we could even have a meeting in the vicinity, and then go and see the SUDs. Yeah.
Yeah. Just conscious of that.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work coming down the line. You know what I mean? And
I'll bring forward a number of options once we've got back to them to say that you're content to visit them and see if there's a way of combining that.
Happy enough, Andrew?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's fine. So we'll take that forward. And the only other thing I need to do then is seek that members are content to note the remaining core as contained in the correspondence memo in the meeting pack. There's nothing else. People are happy to note the rest?
Right.
Okay, fine. Item 8 is some oral evidence from the Mineral Products Association. If we can invite those folk in.
Morning.
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 I'll let you gentlemen get settled and the relevant iPads powered up and bits of paper out. I'd like to invite you in the first instance to make a brief opening statement, and obviously that statement can be up to 10 minutes, and then I imagine that members will have questions for you based on that. So Gordon, are you leading off for us?
Yes, I'll lead off, Chair, with the our opening statement. And again, thanks very much indeed for taking the time to invite us back. We're obviously going to give you an update on the now, as we said, very critical situation within the sector as the 25-26 initial roads maintenance budget is now almost spent, and only a minimal amount of maintenance work remains for these companies, and the guys will maybe give you a wee bit more detail about that shortly. The industry had held hope that the Minister, who we met twice by the way in July, would have made some changes to the balance of the 25-26 capital budget to ensure adequate funding for roads maintenance. However, it seems that hope was misplaced. Following the debate in the House last Monday, the 15th of September, and the Minister's statements, we have no doubt that the Minister and the Department is under significant pressure to balance the Department's capital budget, and members from across all parties during that debate highlighted examples from their own constituencies of the deteriorating road network and the impact it is having on the safety of the travelling public, whether that's travelling by car, a lorry, a bus, cycling or walking on the footways. And members may be aware of an imminent unofficial October monitoring round. It is absolutely vital that any money handed back to the centre by other departments is reallocated by DOF to the DFI for structural maintenance funding to ensure adequate funding for the rest of this financial year. When we last met with the committee in early July, we did tell you that the indicative budget of 68 million was nowhere near what was required to keep the road network safe and protect hundreds of skilled workers that provide quality services and products to the Department for Infrastructure. We recently surveyed our members carrying out highway maintenance and supplying materials to the department, and the results did not make pleasant reading. Today, a number of our members are here at the committee, and I'll ask each of them to introduce themselves shortly, to give you an up-to-date report on what is happening on the ground and what the lack of structural maintenance funding means for their businesses, their skilled workforce, the delivery of social clauses within their contracts, and the knock-on impact of apprenticeships, support for local communities and charities. But it's fair to say we are here, and we were talking about this outside. You know, this isn't so much about us. This fundamentally is about the safety of the road network and the travelling public and the sustainability of the network. The reality is we are facing at present is that if no further funding becomes available in the October monitoring round, this executive and this assembly are going to oversee the most severe deterioration in the £40 billion road asset than any previous administration. Thank you. I'll maybe just ask the guys from John just to introduce themselves, if you don't mind. John.
John McQuillan from McQuillan Companies. Do you want me to say it? Or
Just go on to Damien.
Damien Keenan from Patrick Keenan Quarries.
David Chambers from Gibson Brothers.
Gareth Telford from North Stone Materials Limited.
So happy to take questions now, because I think that's the most important thing.
Listen, thank you very much for the your presentation. I mean, I'll start off on it. I'm quite new, both to committee and to chairing. I mean, Gordon, you mentioned meeting the minister and you've had engagement. What is the minister? How would you characterise that engagement and the willingness of the department to do something around the issues that you raised this morning?
Well, the first meeting was actually a site visit to Northstone's Craigantlet quarry.
I know it well.
Outside Newton Ards, and we took the opportunity to show the minister the new asphalt plant, probably the most modern now in Europe, built to actually facilitate the decarbonisation and manufacture of like warm asphalt, increased recycled asphalt and things like that. And then our second meeting was the end of July in James House, down at the gasworks. And you know, I've been doing this job a long time and I've met many ministers. She was the first minister that I have ever been meeting with that she was actually taking her own notes. So we'll give her praise for that. I accept that she's in a very, very difficult position. The department are under significant pressure in terms of NI Water, TransLink, and you know, it seems that asset management is now a very poor third. But you know, as I made the point at this committee and statements before, we're in a situation at the minute where we're building new roads and we can't maintain the ones that we have, and that's a major issue. You know, we fully understand that the minister did take a lot of time to approve the initial 68 million in April, and you know, we'll accept that the reason for that was that you know, they were within the department, they were trying to turn over every stone to see where we could find extra money. But the reality is, because of the move in the fiscal floor and the 124% now, that you know, 24% per head of population, this was the biggest or the largest infrastructure budget allocation that the department has ever had. And we've made the point it's the department's decision to slice the cake. You know, and in our view, they've done it wrong, and it's going to have the social impact, the economic impact of not maintaining the asset properly, which has been highlighted in the Snaith report, it's been highlighted in the Barton report, the Northern Ireland Audit Office have highlighted. You know, this is, well, these guys and the businesses are obviously their priority. What we're here to talk about is the safety of the network and the absolute necessity to get additional funding that'll see the maintenance of that road network throughout the rest of the financial year. Because if we get a hard winter with frost, I don't know what'll happen. You know,
Okay.
so.
Just picking up on that, Gordon, I mean, you rightly mentioned the change, the positive change in terms of how you just got the fiscal floor going to 124. So actually, infrastructure in particular did very well from that. And just, I thought your comment at the end there, where you sort of said it's up, you know, the budget, the infrastructure budget is there. It's up to the minister how the minister decides to apportion that across the various areas that she has responsibility for. Again, I haven't read some of those reports. I'm still getting up to speed on a range of these areas. But it would be my understanding, Gordon, that actually I'll ask that as a question. If maintenance doesn't go, if we don't do maintenance on our roads and we leave them for a while, when we get around to fixing them, is it even more expensive than if we maintained them in the first place? Does that work within your industry? And that's a very genuine question for me.
Well, I think even the department would admit, and I think these statistics, correct me if I'm wrong, Chance, but the statistics even from GB and further afield shows that preventative maintenance is 20 times more efficient than reactive maintenance. You know, so it's that's the problem. Like at the minute, and a number of you were involved in the debate last week about the new road maintenance strategy. You know, what's happening at the minute is just throwing good money after bad, and these guys, and they'll give you a wee bit of, I'm sure they'll highlight it. We're going out at the minute with nearly patching on patches because it's so reactive, and never mind the fact that over the last number of years we've seen a big increase in utility works on the road network, and certainly as an industry, the core industry, we would certainly question, like all our workers have to be sector scheme accredited and UK national standards for people going out to do patching work on the network, and there's a lot of that work that's taking place with utilities that's not required. And at the end of the day, there's nobody really policing it either. That's a big problem.
And sorry, also as well, Gordon, you know, you've additional costs of the claims that are coming through year after year. If you're not doing that has to be put into the cost as well. False economy.
And those claims are quite. I mean, I think I can't exactly remember. Was it 4 million or something like that over the last while? I mean, those are getting to be significant. I'm just concerned about, whilst there's an economic imperative for this, just the safety of our roads, and certainly I've flagged this up on several occasions. But
in those reports, sorry, Peter.
Go ahead, John.
In those reports, both the Snaith report and the Barton report, it actually highlights, you know, the impact of not spending what professional opinion says you need to spend to keep the road network in a safe and quality condition.
Yeah.
In 2019, the Barton report, that figure was 143 million. The figure now that the Department have stated, and I think they did when the officials were here the last time, I think it was Colin Woods, they mentioned that figure now, because of construction inflation, had increased to 192. And the department's own figures would I remember Andrew Murray, when he was Director of Network Service, using this figure, that for every £1 we spend below that figure, it actually costs £1.26. So we're just adding to that backlog. I think the backlog now, the underspend is over £1 billion.
So that figure of 192, Gordon, final question from me. Just clarify for me, what is the budget for this year? I wrote down 68, I know I passed 68. it. 68. So those comparable figures, DFI are going to spend 68, they probably should spend 192. Is that?
That's, we have to be realistic. That's the figure if you add inflation to that professional statement by Barton in 2019, that his opinion was that the current level of spending need to maintain the network in Northern Ireland was 143. and it's the department have used that figure of 192 to adding in construction inflation, because we've seen bitumen price increase, we've seen labour and everything else.
Okay, so then absolutely final question for me. So what has to happen? You're before committee. What has to happen?
I think ultimately there has to be additional money found. Now, whether there's money available through with the hold up now in the A5 and there's money sitting there, but we have to get our priorities right. It's as simple as that. We're here to do the work. Is that if that money, but we can't. Like, at the minute, as I said, the pot is running dry. And John, do you want to add anything to that?
Peter, I just want to pick up on something that you mentioned there about the level of claims, and you mentioned figures of 3 to 4 million. We met with the AFI officials back in early September, who made us aware that claims have doubled in 2024 and are sitting at a level of 7 to 8 million. Now, I think that gives you a kind of an indication of the severe deterioration of the road network, and as Gordon says, the safety of the public user of the road is at stake. So I just wanted to bring that point up, that the DFI officials have made us aware that doubled.
Oh, thank you for that, John. That's very useful. That's all from me. I'll hand you over to the
thank you, Chair. John. Gordon, gents, thanks very much for coming along today and for taking the time again. I think this is the second or third time you've been in, and it's always very useful. We appreciate everything the sector does under very, very difficult circumstances. The first thing is just around the claims. I mean, as you said, it's 5.1 million in the last financial year plus legal costs, which is akin to 10% of the entire road maintenance budget. It's lamentable, and it's getting worse year on year. It's totally unsustainable. Our road network is running to standstill, and I've never seen it so bad. And I've been involved in local representation politics for over 15 years. It is, I don't need to tell you how bad it is. When the Minister says that road safety is a #1 priority for the department, how does the state of our roads fly in the face of that?
Do you want to?
It doesn't, because the roads are the investment. You're not putting money into investing in the infrastructure to actually maintain it. So the roads are getting worse and worse. So therefore, the knock-on effect is going to be 1 year, 2, 5 years, 10 years down the line. You're going to have to spend huge amount of money to actually fix the roads and actually to strengthen the sub bases of the roads, because the water's going to get down into it, damage it further, and then it's going to, over the winter months, it's going to blow up, and you're going to have to spend, I don't know, 5, 10, 20 times the sort of money that you need to spend now to maintain the network. So it couldn't be.
Yeah. I mean, Gordon, you talked about hoping, I suppose, that we don't have a bad winter, but we've been quite lucky in the grand scheme of things with just how mild things have been. If we get a particularly bad winter with the financial pressures that are there, the state of the roads are just going to be unrecognisable. I think one of our previous colleagues talked about them looking like craters on the moon. That's not an exaggeration to say that's where we could be if we get a particularly bad winter without the necessary budget in place for those repairs.
Well, there is no budget left.
That's what I mean.
Yes, how do you maintain the
I mean, even into the next financial year. Yeah.
It's interesting, and one of the companies that I selected to put under, obviously couldn't put everybody example down, but this one particular company is a small scale contract, and it was interesting that all the others were talking about laying people off and subcontractors gone. This guy has actually probably foresees taking on maybe half a dozen people because because he's doing all this reactive patching, and he just says that at the bottom of it, a sorry state of affairs, totally reactive and unsustainable. You know, and I think that does tell a tale.
That's the point. When you were in previously, you talked about the vulnerability of both the sector and the workforce. That was last time you were in. We know things are worse. What is the situation now with contractors who have effectively been working on good faith in terms of having the commitment from the department that the money will be there and trying to keep a workforce ready and eager to go whenever the money is there and the contracts are there?
I know from our side, and I imagine we're all the same, 2 to 3 weeks we're out of work.
Yeah.
And I know we're focusing on maintaining the roads, but I can't emphasise enough, if you don't get any money until the new financial year, there's a good chance you're not going to have the resources to even maintain the roads at that stage. That's how vital this October mountain round is. There's a long-term issue here as well.
Yeah.
I suppose for me, I just want to say, at this time of year, we look at our budgets for next year and how we're going to plan ahead. Like, at the minute, we don't have any assurance of what the budget is. We're only being told what the budget is now, recently for this year. So what have you got for next year? How do we as companies actually try to plan ahead? How can we think about investment in our plant, our equipment, new asphalt plant up in Craigantlet, tens of millions? Like, that sort of money just doesn't grow on trees. Like, we have to have a budget somewhere along the line for us to actually plan ahead. And if you look at our industry, it's like a tap, because it's switched on and we're meant to be there to do the work. You switch it off and we have to go somewhere else to find work somewhere else, and then all of a sudden you want to switch it on again, and we don't have the resources just there for you to keep doing that there. We have to come up with a sensible budget at the start of the year that will maintain the road network the way it is to keep it safe. And that's what we're here to lobby for, realistically, is we need a budget that's realistic, that we can all, as business people, sit and plan ahead, and we decide how many people we need going forward, how many apprentices we need. Like, I have 7 apprentices sitting with me at the minute, and I don't know what they're doing in November. Do I let them go? What to do with these people? But it's part of my contract to actually have these people. We have social clauses within our contract, and we are trying to abide by the contract, but we can't keep going the way we're going if we don't have a budget. And that's where we have to get to, guys, is a sensible budget for the whole industry, and it'll maintain your road network and allow people to drive on it safely. And that's where we're at.
Look, I firmly agree with you, and I think you'll probably all say the same thing. As a scrutiny committee of the department, I want to see that budget, and I want to see you having the security that you are in a position to be able to react whenever the work is there, and not being made to operate in good faith. I suppose you have raised that with the Minister, and ultimately it's her and her officials who decide on this. So what was her response when you said about the vulnerability of the sector and the fact that you can't, as Gareth said, keep turning the tap on and off at their beck and call?
She fully accepted that.
But it is what it is.
Explain budget.
The Minister seems to understand, and so does the department, that we need money, but the money just hasn't been forthcoming. Last year we hosted a visit to the then Minister John O'Dowd. We took him to an asphalt resurfacing scheme in Ballymena, and the theme of that meeting was to demonstrate to the Minister the level of investment required for the likes of a large asphalt scheme. He's seen on that day, there was up to 30 staff employed on the one site. You could have up to £1 million worth of plant machinery on that site. And sitting behind all that, you have a quarry to make to manufacture the aggregates, and you have an asphalt plant sitting. So there's a massive investment from us to be sitting ready for the department for whenever they need the roads maintained. So, but the finance minister John O'Dowd also understands, because he's been to an asphalt resurfacing site last year, yes. and the current minister understands the level of resources that's committed to this year. And we have 4 asphalt resurfacing contracts. We do the work in Mid-Ulster, Marfelt, Cookstown, Dungannon and Omagh, and we also have a contract in Moyle. By the middle of October, at the minute, Marfelt and Cookstown have no resurfacing programme for the rest of this year. Dungannon has another couple of weeks, we'll be finished, and Moyle has no programme at the minute. So we have no resurfacing programme after the middle of October, and that is fairly unprecedented. In my 20 years, I've never seen a situation where the resurfacing programme has dried up to nothing. Yeah. And we do have 3 small scale contracts, and we're inundated with patching. We can't get we get job cards. We get job cards in for fixing potholes. There's any God's amount of potholes to fix, and we'll never get them all. We try our best. We'll never get them all. We'll never get to the very last one, because they just keep coming in. We're inundated with potholes to repair. So, as Gordon says, we need to get out and fix the roads properly with the resurfacing contracts.
We've only half of the financial year to go. We've got half of the financial year to go.
So what Damien said there, just to clarify, the resources that you're using for fixing potholes is very different to the resources that you're needing and the machines that you need for full-scale resurfacing. Yes. And the other point I'd like to make is there seems to be, and we'll talk about the A5, but all these flashy new schemes and whatever, and whoever wins those contracts, the surfacing of these new roads are going to be done with somebody on as part of the MPA. you know, and as important as the maintenance of the roads is, it's the core of our business. So the department needs to realise that the survival of these businesses and having work is very important for these flashy new schemes as well, because we're all going to be involved in those as well.
Yeah, I've had one very quick one, if I may, just to finish, because there's so much to cover in this. We could spend probably a conference on this, but in terms of the budget it is there, I think we all accept it's probably half of what it should be at the very least, and we could probably spend infinitely more. How would you go about maybe changing the way the current budget's spent in terms of assessing, triaging programmes and needs and resurfacing, if that makes sense, by sector and by division? Would you do it any differently and feed into the department's process in that?
I think Gordon's already highlighted that the split between, you know, new capital projects, new roads being opened, and actual maintenance of the existing asset needs to be seriously considered. And in simple terms, why build new roads when this government can't maintain the existing asset they have? Yeah, there needs to be more investment in structural maintenance. I mean, we're asked as companies, for us to be able to procure these contracts, we're asked to invest. You know, Damien mentioned the investments that the companies are making. We have to make those investments to be able to qualify to actually receive these contracts. You know, and to give you some sort of figures on the level of investment, we're asked to make investments. We're given at procurement stage, we're given mid-range values of what DFI expect these contracts to be worth, and we're asked to gear up and invest and get the resources to be able to do that. Last year, our company holds 7 structural maintenance contracts, and the actual spend on the contracts last year only amounted to 60% of the mid-range value advised. Take a step to this year, our works orders written are only 55% of the value of works orders last year, and we've been told there's no more money. So we've made this investment up front, and we're now sitting in a very difficult position where we're never going to get a return on the investment we've made. But yet to be able to qualify and to be able to pick up the next DFI contract or successfully procured, we'll be asked to make the same investments.
Yeah. Well, you've done your bit. I think it's only right and proper that both the department and the executive meet you halfway, and that's all you're asking for. It's not a lot, to be fair. Guys, I could ask plenty more, but I'm conscious of time, so thank you. We'll touch base again.
Thank you, John. Stephen.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, gentlemen, for your presentation, and also commend you for the survey you've done too, taking time out, you know, to consult with people is interesting and helpful for us as well. Just a couple of questions then. Have you any figure what percentage of the road maintenance work is carried out, say, on one financial year by contractors like yourselves as opposed to in-house DFI work? Would there be any way of putting a figure on that roughly?
In-house DFI work is very, very small.
It's very small.
Yeah.
And it's getting smaller because they have issues themselves, recruiting staff and all the rest. So
what would you say?
It's well over, I would say, well over 90, probably 95%.
We have requests. We have a liaison group with DFI where industry meets with DFI's liaison. We have requested that split because it was provided in previous years where we could see how much went to DFI Direct, as it used to be called, or RSD Direct.
Yeah. No, and just when you mentioned that the retention recruitment, so on that DFI have, then you've made reference to that. How real of a challenge is that in terms of losing workforce to other parts of the UK or the Republic, as we said today, and obviously as we look ahead?
You know, because this industry that we're employing people in is so unsustainable in terms of a sustainable budget, there is other more sustainable opportunities for employment, be that in the south, be that across in GB, be that in Australia, wherever. You know, we're now sitting here in front of you, genuinely saying that we are looking at over 500 people across our industry whose positions could be at risk. Yeah. Those 500 people find work elsewhere that's more sustainable, where there's more sustainable budgets. We will not see those people back.
Yeah, the other point, just the 68 million. Then it's almost 6 months. It's used up with almost 6 months to go. Then 5 or 6 months left with no work. It's shocking figures certainly, and very, very alarming indeed. With over 10 years now of limited service from the department that you'll all be well aware of, and obviously that has had an severe impact on our road network right across Northern Ireland and in every constituency. The Minister has often talked about a new road maintenance strategy, and that was why I proposed a motion last week to push her on that. We've still to see any action on that beyond words. Have you had any level of engagement on that road maintenance strategy, given the expertise that you have at your table there amongst you?
Yeah, to be fair to the department, they've engaged with us twice and have asked for our opinion. At the minute, the jury's out. With a little bit of glasses very much half full.
Yeah.
But the one thing we're quite passionate about is that this road maintenance strategy just should not look like it needs to look at everything, and that's the whole way that the DFI road asset and tram deliver. And this whole, as a lot of you may be familiar with the consultancy client split within the department. That has to go, in our opinion, because that is not an efficient way to do business. There needs to be more collaboration, and they've highlighted that. Intelligence-led approach, is the sensible, because the new technologies that are out there certainly will enable, through a more collaborative approach with the industry, to deliver better, more efficient roads maintenance. Damien, do you want to add anything?
Look, hand in hand with the procurement strategy, there has been talk of multi-year budgets, and multi-year budgets are fine, but if they have to be sustainable, they have to be sustainable for the safety of the road network. And if government decide that there will be a multi-year budget to spend 70 million per year for the next 4 years in structural maintenance, that's just the way, nothing's changed then. So within the procurement strategy, I think sort of we were given high level, and we haven't seen the final document yet. Yeah,
you mentioned technology there. What role does it have today, or could have? Is it a real game changer? There's some talk around the inspections where it can come into play. Videos and AI and so on. Is it used in other parts of the world, or are you using it, or?
Well, to the best of my knowledge, it's used in GB and in other areas, and if it can help us be more reactive, or preventative, in identifying where the main issues are, that's a good thing. I think to get away from this sort of, as Damien mentioned, you're getting your cards, and the number of people, I'm sure it's happened to you. Like, I have family members tell me in around Warringstown, where they're driving up the Mill Hill or out the Dunkirk Road, and they see patches, all the way, the markings for the patches to be done, and the contractor comes out and they do one, but they leave the one sitting beside it.
Yeah.
You're thinking, what the heck's going on?
Well, the way it can work sometimes works is you go to a particular road and you patch the areas that are identified, but you're leaving another piece of you're doing a patch here, but that bit there needs fixed. But we're only instructed to fix the bit that they've identified for us, and then within another couple or 3 weeks, we're back at the exact same road again, fixing that hole there. And we could be at the same road 3 or 4 times in the space of 6 months. So
the Minister has mentioned Ards North Down, which is our own constituency, has some work around that, and some good work has been done in terms of taking in a bit more. But I can assure you, it's still leaves a lot to be desired, and a lot more is needed. Just final point, in terms of, you mentioned about building new roads, not maintaining our own, and I think it'd be remiss with Keith not in attendance today not to mention about his point about active travel, and it's the same principle where we're building new footpaths, but our current footpaths, for example, are often blocked and unpassable in some cases. So it's the same principle, and the department really needs to get a grip with it, and I certainly concur with everything you've said today here.
Stephen, can I just comment on that? The active travel budget, this government committed to 10% of the budget, being used for active travel. It doesn't seem to be. There seems to be that there's surplus money in active travel. There doesn't seem to be that there's enough active travel hitting the ground quick enough. We would ask if the active travel budget has been ring fenced, can that be? And we're approaching now the latter part of the financial year. Can that money be diverted to structural maintenance?
No, and that would allow areas that could be utilised, for walking and cycling safely and so on.
Mm-hmm. The other point I would make, we appreciate as taxpayers that the executives under pressure, as the other devolved administrations are under financial pressure. But the one thing that we have to do, and it's part of this road maintenance strategy as well, and why we've welcomed them, the closer collaboration, we need to make that pound go further. And we're up for that, but we need to get a sensible balance in the financial assets that we have in terms of the budget, and look at ways of spending that more effectively.
Just going back to what you were saying about technology and stuff like that, it's all important, but we're at such a vast difference as to what the budget is to what we need. It's not going to have much of an impact because the lack of budget is so severe.
I appreciate that. Thanks, gentlemen. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Stephen. Andrew.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. I certainly get all the points. In fact, so much so that I nearly want to sort of extrapolate out a wee bit rather than because you made the case very well for the road maintenance. Just wanted to touch on one thing there regarding. You mentioned there about accreditation, of patch. Maybe I've picked you up on that wrong, but you mentioned accreditation. Or there's no accreditation for patch jobs on the road. I just wondered. I mean, is that something that could be brought out, or is that something that you would improve, or what's your thoughts on that? Sorry.
No, as an industry, working for the department, all our companies have to have. I don't know if it's still the same. Sector Scheme 16. For their workforce to work for DFI on the network. We also, like all our manufacturing plants, have to be third party accredited and Sector Scheme 14 accredited, so we have to meet standards so that the product that the DFI and the public are getting in Northern Ireland, it does what it says in the tin. Okay, but there are areas, particularly like the private streets, for example, and with utility patching, where those requirements aren't required. Now, most of the material the utility subcontractors will come from our plant, so there's no issues with the materials. It's the quality of the workmanship, the patching, the compaction, that type of thing, and all our workers have to be trained to this Sector Scheme 16 accreditation, which is UK wide. That's the point I was making, Andrew.
Again, I think it was John McGrath's on. Sorry, Mr. Telford, is that right? Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah. You mentioned about your plant and decarbonisation. I mean, how much of an impact? And also, I suppose we want to be sustainable, not only in sustainable roads, but also sustainable quarrying and aggregates and stuff like that. I mean, how much of an impact is this having on that end of things, from the sustainability and the decarbonisation?
I suppose a number of years ago we were planning ahead, and we have 3 asphalt plants within the Belfast region, so we decided to do away with 3 plants to put 1 super plant in, so that we're not burning the same amount of fuels, carbon footprint is reduced. But this asphalt plant that we've installed at quite considerable cost can actually go to at least 70% recycled wrap material into the bases and binders. So the specification only allows you to go to 50 at the minute. In the south of Ireland it allows you to go to 70 because they've done trials. So we are sort of future proofing our investment in that plant, that we will have the availability to ramp up to the needs of the assembly here, that we'll be able to meet your carbon sustainability commitments by 2030. So we have invested quite considerably in that there, and we're now asking you to come forward and actually move the goalposts a wee bit further and push the sustainability side of things within the assembly here, because it's the commitment's there, and that's one of the reasons why the A5 project didn't go ahead, was the judge ruled that you were not meeting the sustainability criteria that the Assembly had set for 2030. So we have invested in it. We decided 3 or 4 years ago to do that there, but it all takes planning. It just doesn't happen overnight. Like when you go to buy an asphalt plant, at £5-6 million. It takes a bit of time to make sure you're getting the right piece of equipment. You certainly do your homework that way. So we're just looking for an investment in the road infrastructure. We have the resources, and a lot of the companies have resources to put RAP into it, but we need to take this a step further, and we need to actually think about what we're doing and how we go about maintaining the network in a more sustainable way as well.
I think it's, Andrew, I think it's very, very important that the members realise that the industry are ready. It's the specification from the department. Like, you know, we've already told the department we're ready for warm asphalt. You know, that's not been specified. I know for a fact on the A5 there was 60,000 tonnes of recycled asphalt could have been used, but the engineer didn't want it. You know, we you know, I go back to that point. We're ready. There's been a lot of investment made, not just by Nordstrom, but the other companies here as well, and increasing the RAP capacity of their plants. You know, we're at an MPA level. Like we're involved in the industrial decarbonisation NI project. We get, you know, once we get the gas network sorted out and the grid network out. Like as an industry, you talked about sustainable aggregates there, but as a wider industry, we could come off the grid eventually, you know, because of the size of our sites in terms of using solar, wind, and then small-scale hydrogen. And I think mentioned that at the last meeting. So don't be in any doubt, the industry's ready for this. It's the decision that the department needs to make and the jump that they need to make in terms of start specifying these things.
That's one more question.
Sure, Andrew, yeah.
RAP, is that like recycled asphalt product or something like that? Sorry.
Recycled asphalt planks.
Okay, yep. And again, we've drawn a lot, but just want to talk about the sort of, you know, talk about the wider societal things. What effect is it going to have on apprenticeships? I mean, it was in the news the other day about apprenticeships and difficulty, but also just in the wider economic knock-on effect of the apprenticeships, the workforce, you know, development, production line, if you will, of apprenticeships, and yeah.
As an industry, you're probably aware, we have a huge capacity to take on apprenticeships, and it was a requirement of the social clauses. But you know, we can't employ and sustain apprenticeships if we've no money. You know, the move towards multi-year budgets will obviously help, and as Damon said, or as John says, but only if the budget is correct. I'll give you an example from your own minister's department. I was approached by DFI a few weeks ago. There had been a letter gone from the Department of Justice to the Department of Infrastructure to ask what the capacity was for taking on rehabilitated offenders in our work. And I met Naomi at an event, and I went over and said, look, we've received this. I just want to tell you right now, it's not that we don't want to do it. We can't because of the budget situation. So if you take that as an example, there's a whole lot of, you know, the government needs to understand that you can only deliver social clauses if you've got a budget through public sector contracts. And that's the reality.
It was in the news last night about the apprenticeships, and one of the statements was 10% of companies in Northern Ireland take on apprentices. I would say every one of the companies that you're looking at today, and a lot of people in our industry, are all taking on apprentices. I would say we have somewhere in the region of 15 to 20 apprentices in our business. That's how we're getting young people in. They are the future, but you're turning the tap off again. And we're sitting, we have a decision to make very soon, before the end of this year. Are we going to take apprentices on for next year? Because you have to plan ahead. As I said, you look at budgets, you plan ahead. We have to go back by the end of November to Work Plus to tell them what apprentices we need. Then in December they get ready and they advertise in January. People apply in February, and then we interview in March and we appoint in April. So there's 6 months. That's planning ahead. We can't plan ahead with the budget you're giving us because we don't know what the budget is. This is the predicament we are all in.
Yeah, and on that, without getting into the details, just so you understand, in these contracts, I think my figures are right here, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we have to have 100 points per £1 million spend in the social clauses contractually. So when we have work, we have to meet those 100 points. But it comes back to what Gareth was saying. What do you do for those apprentices? And I mean, this has impact on mental wellness, charity work. It's all part of social clauses. But you're only giving us work for 6 months of the year. What do we do for the other 6 months?
Again, Gareth, you had mentioned eight apprentices working directly on structural maintenance contracts.
Yeah.
We have 7, and it's the same. We're in the same scenario. But I'm not only concerned about apprentices. I'm concerned about people we're providing employment for. We're providing benefits for. We're providing further professional development for. It's not only apprentices that are at risk here.
Okay. I'm conscious just of time, and it's catching us. Cathal, you're next.
Thanks very much. And Gordon, not the first rodeo, eh? For me and you. And listen, I understand. Thanks very much for the presentation. I mean, it's we all know about the budgets, because I mean, I sit in the chamber every Monday and Tuesday, and I hear all the ministers shouting at John O'Dowd as finance minister about giving them money, and all of a sudden I'm sitting here in committee, and all of a sudden it's the DFI minister. We're strapped for budgets, and appreciate We've had a number of meetings and we've talked about this before, and I do agree with you. The state of roads is no doubt every constituency office in the place, not only from potholes but other issues. Roads maintenance is an issue for us, and no doubt I'm sure this committee will support you. I mean, my question for you was, you've teased out most of the things, and we're all aware, well, a lot of us are aware of most of the issues. Obviously it's coming up to October monitoring rounds, and I mean, and your conversation with the minister will continue after this conversation today. In terms of yourselves, realistically, you're asked. I mean, I'm asking you. You know what I mean? Because that's the next process first, and the discussions over the budget will continue. But just generally for the monitoring rounds for October, I mean, would you like to give your views to the committee on that? And obviously, maybe be looking support for that going forward. But just on that.
Just like yesterday, I have a letter away off to John O'Dowd, because I think and any money that is handed back to the centre, because, like, for example, the F5 money, we're now aware that hearing's not going to be held to December. I would expect that there has to be money sitting there unspent, and is likely to be unspent. And I know that DFI would have to submit a bid to get permission, as the A5's an executive project, to reallocate that money. But I'll say this to you all. The big stingy nettle in the room is revenue raising, and we put in a fairly detailed submission into the transport strategy, and we've been open and said, look, we need to start considering the likes of tolls. We'll drive to the south. If I go to Galway, I'm going through about 3 or 4 toll roads. We should start to think outside the box in terms of revenue raising. I would even suggest congestion charging, and indeed, and I know this is a hot potato, the CEF and the Northern Ireland Chamber and Grant Thornton put forward a very, very good proposal in terms of a sewage charge. Note, they've changed the language, of £120 a year, where people in social housing wouldn't pay it, people on universal credit wouldn't pay it. We have to get real about how we maintain and invest in our infrastructure. And if we don't grasp the nettle and make some difficult decisions and show political leadership, our infrastructure is just going to continue to degrade. And I think we need to really, in a public-private collaboration, think in the future and have a serious discussion about how we invest in and maintain our infrastructure.
Can I just mention something like that, Gordon? Toll bridges. The Westlink, it was reported in 2016 that the Westlink, there's 100,000 vehicles use the Westlink daily. A toll of £1 would create 35 million additional funding per year that could be used to maintain the road and get the road into a safer state. Gordon mentioned the closest toll to here is the M1 Drogheda. There's not a roundabout at the M1 Drogheda for people who don't want to choose that road and pay the toll. I don't think it's going to be the same for the Westlink either. Congestion charges. We're trying. This government's trying to encourage people to use public transport. Implementing a congestion charge that would work in the favour of encouraging people. But this industry body has been coming for years to lobby for more funding for structural maintenance. We completely sympathise with the minister because the pot is only so large. But unless we think outside the box in terms of internal fundraising, nothing's going to change. we'll be coming back next year and the year after, and the roads will just fall into a greater state of disrepair.
Al, do you have anything else?
No, Chair, like I said, Gordon and me's had this chat on numerous occasions, and I mean, I'm supportive of it, but like I said, we're strapped at the minute for, but we'll do all, I'm sure the committee will support whatever some of the suggestions made today, and we'll listen. I have no issue, especially the monitoring rounds coming up now. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, thank you, Cal. Harry?
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, gentlemen. You did mention a big increase in utilities, probably over this past 5-10 years, and those not being policed properly. I mean, I do know in most cases, after utility companies dig up the roads, they're digging them wider now, they're digging them deeper. Don't seem to be using the materials that the existing roads were made of. Trucks are heavier. They're maybe using some of you guys to repair them, certainly using your materials. Do you think if that was policed better and they were held to account better, it would help road safety somewhat?
I've always been a great believer that any legislation or any requirements or any any guidance that is written and it's not policed, it's not worth the paper it's written on. In terms of the policing of it, under street works legislation, there are certain standards. Again, going back to the department, we're all aware of the resource issues. There are some utilities that are better than others in terms of their work, and like in terms when we go into, we have a health and safety group with the department, and one of the issues, the standard agenda items, is utilities. So we do. There has been a greater understanding over the last number of years between the core maintenance contractors and the utilities. And for example, we've had cases where there has been no communication at all, where a utility has gone into an existing roadwork site over a weekend, and the contractor has come back in and seen, oh my goodness, what has gone on here? And there's been no communication, so we're getting the grips with that. Mm-hmm. But there's a body in Northern Ireland called NAROC, which is the Northern Ireland Roads and Utilities Council, and they have standards, and there's utility standards across the UK. But it all comes back to that policing, and indeed the policing of subcontractors working for those utilities. We regularly find electric cables, not so much electric and gas, now more the broadband, the high fibre material buried at depths, that are against the rules, basically. So yes, there's an issue of enforcement and scrutiny, but again, it all comes back to that issue of having the resource to be out there on the ground.
I'm aware within the last year and a half that Highways England actually introduced a fine structure for substandard works completed by utility bodies. And I fully appreciate. Sorry, that would suggest that they are policing it in some fashion. But I fully appreciate DFI do have a resource issue themselves. But what Gordon had mentioned earlier, by requesting that any contractors who are carrying out repairs on DFI-owned roads or have the right qualifications, the qualifications that this table has in terms of their sector scheme approval, that would be a step in the right direction.
I think all repairs should be up to sector scheme 14, 16, whatever, really. Because majority of roads, I'd say near 50% of them, the problems are previous repairs, and then, as I say, the heavy vehicles. But good point. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Harry. Lastly, Justin.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, folks. The most serious deterioration of the road network that this administration has ever seen. That's some statement.
That's reality, Justin.
Is that not frightening?
It's extremely frightening, and I know quite a number of cyclists, and I was told recently by an official that I think a couple of the cycling organisations have actually met with the minister. It is, as I say, we have been, when I came to this committee in early July, I think my opening statement was of a very, very big feeling of deja vu. And we've been talking about this issue about roads maintenance since the Assembly was established, and even before. And a lot of the comments around here have basically highlighted that in people's experience they haven't seen the roads in as bad a condition. And that's the reality. And sometimes you need to shock, but that is the reality. We're going to, unless there's more money found in this financial year, a significant amount of more money, it's going to take us probably up in around about 120, 130 million for an overall 25-26. We're going to see a significant deterioration in the road network, and that's not even allowing for a severe winter.
But just in the, what I mentioned earlier, the fact that we were made aware by a DFI official that claims doubled, public liability claims doubled in 2024, that would back up that statement to suggest that this is the way the network is headed.
Crazy. Again, the most serious deterioration of the road network that this administration has ever seen, yet department budgets are going up. The department has been funded to a higher level than ever before, but yet the budget for road maintenance has decreased. Decreased by what percentage?
68. The initial budget the initial budget last year was 89, and this year it's 68, and we've been told there's no more money.
So it's a significant drop. How has that impacted morale, not alone in the industry? Obviously, you're at the precipice of having to let 500 people go. You're not taking on engaging apprentices. Within the department itself, road service staff, the morale is rock bottom. They want to go out and get the jobs fixed. They know the state of the roads. They're feeling like they want to jump ship because they don't see a future for them in the service. And they're an aging workforce as well, so there's going to be natural attrition there, and they're not bringing new blood in. So that's all a perfect storm for even a bigger crisis if it's not checked. With doubling of claims, traffic levels deteriorating or decreasing in sync with the deteriorating budgets? Am I missing something here?
The fact that every meeting I come to in Belfast now, I use the train because I can't be bothered sitting in the car park that's the M1. I would suggest the traffic volumes have gone up. You use the proper term. It is a perfect storm, and certainly talking to these guys and the conversations that they have at the local level, I would say the morale within DFI staff at the coalface has never been lower.
What's your experience of meeting with them and speaking with them regularly in terms of the state of the roads, which is a big bugbear for people, and on...
Sorry, even on that, on the DFI staff, you have got, I don't know what the numbers are, but you have so many people employed that are going to not have a whole lot to do for 6 months of the year. And that is a total waste of money on paying salaries and nothing being done.
Crazy.
Which actually emphasises the need for this new road maintenance strategy and the whole restructuring of how DFI deliver and collaborate better with the industry.
It's also sad that you men are sitting here today talking about diverting money from the AF5, a flagship executive project which has been delayed, diverting money from potentially active travel schemes. It doesn't say a lot about this administration when that is being discussed. In terms of allocation of budgets, what's your understanding of how budgets are allocated? Are they allocated by division or are they allocated by need? And I speak as a South Armagh man, where I feel strongly that our roads are the worst in the north. Driving around Crossman Glen Square, it's like driving on the far side of the moon, and that's within the Minister's own constituency. How are budgets allocated? Are they allocated by need or by division?
By division,
By division,
yeah.
My interpretation.
Again, whilst the roads in South Armagh crumble to even worse levels based on budgets not being available, they're not actually allocated by need, by division.
Again, Justin, I would say, certainly what we have been told in this road maintenance strategy, that is going to change, and I am aware, and you may be aware, but if it hasn't happened, it's going to happen within the next few days. But the department have instigated a road condition survey, and when we were speaking to them a couple of weeks ago, they did say that this was going to happen or start within the next couple of weeks as part of this road maintenance strategy, to form a baseline and then start to prioritise where the maintenance actually needs proper maintenance. Not talking about patching.
What has to happen in October monitoring for your industry?
what has to happen. It's what has to happen to sustain our businesses, but it also has to happen to get the road to a reasonable standard. Our industry could take 8 to 9 million per month for the next 6 months just on asphalt resurfacing. I know the structural maintenance budget gets divvied up in different ways, but just on asphalt resurfacing, the preventative maintenance of the roads, we could take 8 to 9 million. But we have to be realistic. We need to see a reasonable amount come from October.
The problem is we've been lobbying since June, July. That's when we needed the money. See, if the October monitoring round wasn't meant to happen, but it is now happening.
It's an unofficial one, I'm
Unofficial.
led to believe.
So if we don't get money in October, and if we do get money in October, there's a delay in getting that work on the ground. Then you're into December when there's a embargo on the road network, so we can't even work on the road network in December. So if we get the money in October, best case scenario is we could be doing a bit of work in November. It's going to be then January before we see the real works hitting the ground, January, February, March. So we're still in a flux here of not having a lot to do in October, November, December. And what do we do with our people? Because we haven't got a proper budget set down from day one. And that's why we lobbied in June and July, because we realised that as an industry, 68 million is never going to keep us going, even through the last quarter of this year. So it's important we get word very quickly to the people that are delivering the works on the ground, DFI, to get works that are required to be done to maintain the network and get them ready for us in October and November, if the money is available.
Yeah. And again, I'll say what I said at the start. Look, you've heard about the impact on our businesses, but the priority here is the safety of the road network and that of the travelling public.
Do you feel that your voices are going unheard within the department and from the minister to the minister?
Well, I was flabbergasted whenever we didn't get anything in June. Listening, following our presentation to this committee in early July, and then meeting the minister, and the fact that it was taking that long for the minister to decide on rebalancing that DFI budget, we did hold out some hope that there was going to be a rethink and appropriately, change the split and give more to an appropriate level to structure maintenance. That hope was misplaced.
I think what I always say is words mean nothing. It's action, and the lack of action answers your question.
Last question. You said, Gordon, 50 to 60,000 tonnes of recycled material were offered for use in the F5 scheme, and they were refused.
Well, no, not so much that within the requirements on the. I don't know. We don't have time, but we could hold a meeting on the debacle that was the AF5 in terms of lower carbon materials, lower carbon fuels being used on the vehicles. It wasn't even in the on the horizon.
Maybe Gordon, you'd want to just. I'm again conscious of time. I'm going to give Justin his last question. If you want to submit something to the committee on that, we'd be more than happy to hear that.
A lot of these guys tendered for work.
Yeah.
We're opening up a can of worms there, Gordon. We're opening up a can of worms.
Justin, just 1 second.
We're opening up a can of worms there. That's recycled material is not being included within the tender and within the procurement exercise, and that's.
Justin, calm yourself, man. Calm yourself.
I'll
let you get to your.
I'm not calm at all.
I'll let you get to your last question. It's not an issue. All I'm saying in terms of management of this session and the time that we have, Gordon and colleagues, more than happy to hear and take some evidence around that if you want to write it right in. Justin, go ahead. Sorry.
Just obviously the F5 has hit a major roadblock. Lives are at stake here, and we're hearing from the industry that recycled materials and the climate change initiatives that were available within the industry have not been included within the procurement exercise. Is that
the one thing I would say? There's been other projects that after the Climate Change Act were halted to relook at the documents. The F5 wasn't. We had the potential to build the first carbon neutral dual carriageway stroke motorway on this island if the proper procedures had been followed.
That's major. That's major.
Thank you, Gordon, and I'm sure Justin's going to write that down. I'm going to bring back in John for a
very, very quick, Chair. Just to follow up
question.
on John's point, but tying into what Gordon said about road safety, was there any discussion with the Minister around the more flexibility interpretation of the active travel budget? They have to date interpreted it quite widely. For example, streetlights qualify in order because people might run past them, and that's considered an active travel. I would argue that the overwhelming amount of cycling is done on roads, and ergo it's an active travel thing, and the amount of road running is going through the roof, as is equestrian, all done on roads. So if we're using streetlights with active travel, can we not use active travel to repair potholes on roads that cyclists are on?
I think that's the intention.
Is it? It is the intention. It's just not happening yet. That's
It's
unfortunate.
not happening. Yeah. There is obviously active travel schemes which include new footpaths, new cycle lanes being built, but
Not
a
repairing
road
the
being
existing
resurfaced that
infrastructure.
is on an active travel route.
Yeah.
I believe can be considered as active travel
Okay.
money, which would back up the requirement to move that money to get it out in the ground quicker whenever it's needed now.
It's just in my mind, Judd, to date, I haven't seen in any questions I've put in any examples of repairs where cycling and running and equestrian is taking place on main roads being used to repair those roads to prevent injury and to encourage active travel on them. I know we could have a discussion around that, but given how tight the purse strings are being pulled at the minute, I think flexibility is the key, in my humble opinion. Anyway, thank you, Chair.
No problems, John. Okay, listen, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming in. That has been illuminating in a whole range of ways. Certainly, committee will now consider what you've told us. I have been scribbling away what I intend to do with some of that. You can, in terms of seeing what that looks like, if you have a look at the stream later, no doubt you'll see what the committee's going to do in terms of the evidence that you provided. But I just want to thank you for your time today. I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks.
Okay, members, as I reflected to the witnesses there, that was a very detailed section, and I felt a very useful section. Although it gave me, certainly I've scribbled down a range of questions here. I'm going to bring other members in terms of anything that they wish to follow up on in terms of the session, and I suspect a lot of that will be with the department. So if I start and then just see if members are content, and then I'll bring everyone in and everyone can have a go. I certainly be keen to write to the department, picking up, I think, what assurance the department can give us that essentially third-party contractors, when doing some level of patchwork, do it to an agreed standard. I suspect a lot of that is around pavements and maybe contractors going in to put in cabling, take out cabling, moving cabling around. So I think there's evidence provided today that whilst these gentlemen are going in and doing that, there are sectoral standards. I'd like to ask the department just what they're doing in terms of making sure that footpaths are repaired to an agreed standard.
I would say it was one of those footpaths. I think roads.
And roads.
I mean, I think it is.
I'm going to emphasise that because that was my question
I think it
too.
is
and
roads
the
too.
police-
So let's open it up to footpaths and roads. So when other contractors go in, how does the department assure the committee that those are done to an appropriate standard? I think a legitimate question, and it came directly from evidence there, is one of the gentlemen said, why is the department building new roads when it can't sustain the current network? I think I'd want to hear from the department its view on that statement. And clearly we need new roads. It's also clearly the view that it's going to be extremely challenging to maintain the current network, given the budgetary constraints, which we're all aware of. I think some clarity around that. I'd like to hear about the road condition strategy. If we could write to the department just ask if they have any detail on the road condition strategy that was referenced in the evidence and when the committee are going to be cited on it. And finally, for me, and picking up from how Justin led into that, how is money allocated within the DFI budget? We know what the headline figures are. I think some of the issue that the mineral products witnesses had is, I think there was a general acceptance that there was fairly reasonable engagement with the minister, and they met with the minister a couple of times. I think one of the key things that I heard during that is that they have an issue about the internal prioritisation of the DFI budget. So if we could ask around that, how's money allocated within DFI budget and how's it prioritised? That was what I got from that session. I'm going to open it up so that all committee members get a chance if they wish to. Does anyone have anything they want to add? Harry?
Well, just basically to reinforce some of your comments, Chair, but more around the roads and the footpaths that the repairs should be policed. Asked, are they policed? I think there's a time frame. There's obviously a standard of repairs that have to be up to after a utility company has been in, the repairs have been carried out, that will be inspected, but it's the length of time the repairs last. Sometimes I know there's a given number of years, so I would like to know, is that policed and enforced?
We'll find that out, absolutely, that's fine. Harry?
Thank you, Chair.
No problems.
I think just that
Andrew?
there is an answer there, there'll be a standard answer, but the fact of the matter is it's the utility repairs that ultimately fail, and then it's just
100%.
You know, that's, you know, I think they've said that themselves. So I think, yeah, and I'm sure every member here, as you know, Mr. Boylan says, constituency offices, that's one of the main bugbears amongst constituents.
Well, let's dig into that, Andrew, and see what we can get back, and we can go back and forward. No issue with that whatsoever. Cathal?
You know, Chair, we receive a lot of complaints in the office, but my other issue probably would ask is, you see a road done, the next thing a week later the utilities is in on spanking new surface done up, and I'm just obviously as part of the question about engagement. You know, there's an engagement program, and we've heard down through the years. I mean, this, that, just finalise that in terms of the engagement because a road could be done, and 2 weeks later
somebody comes in and digs it all up and puts a trench into it.
Just try to coordinate that, and they may not have. There's a role in it, but you know, we can try to coordinate just in terms of cooperation, probably. Yeah. In terms of trying that, because and then obviously Harry's raised the issue. I mean, you see it a lot of the work. You know, they're supposed to reinstate it to a certain level, whatever that level is, whatever it is. Just I would agree with that question as well. Yeah.
No, that's fine. Thank you, Cathal. I'll bring Michael in a wee second, just in case any other members have got anything that they specifically want to ask the department. Following on, Justin.
I'm not sure where we stand here in terms of the current legal ongoings, but for the industry to say that the A5 should have been the first carbon neutral dual carriageway only for proper procedures not having been followed, that's a major statement. And
are you making a suggestion regarding that?
I think the department has to answer for that question, with that position.
Do you want to suggest a form of words?
To start off, and if not, Minister in front of us.
Okay, well look, we will. Michael, is there a form of words we can ask the department around that?
Just to state that we could put in the letter that witnesses referred to an opportunity for the A5 to be the first carbon neutral dual carriageway, and whether the department has any comment on that. Would that suffice?
If proper procedures have been followed.
Could I just seek one point of clarity? You mentioned the road. There's the road conditions survey, and there's the road maintenance strategy.
Yep.
Which one were you referring to?
Road conditions strategy.
So there's a road conditions survey, and there's the road maintenance strategy.
Road conditions survey, I think maybe was what would the yeah. Sorry, that was wrongly scribbled. Yeah.
Great.
Very good. No, thank you for that clarity.
Sure. To be asked with legal advice, just in case I know Justin's asked a legitimate question there. Just because it's a live issue.
Yep.
I need to just make sure it's only the timing of it. It's not asking.
I know that.
It's not the point of it. Just make sure this committee itself, as members, are covered in legitimately.
There's not a current case. Yeah. So I know there's an announcement to appeal, but I believe that's not before the courts at the moment, but I will check with legal services.
Just check, because it'll cover the committee, because I mean, it'll come back to the committee asking. If he said what, that's all, just, but the question legitimate.
Thanks. No, that's very useful, Carol. Okay. Members are content. We'll move on to point 9 on the agenda, which is SUDs in new housing developments, a public consultation. You'll see this on page 274 and at page 277. So obviously we heard about this last week. There is going to be a SUDS consultation. I think the committee want to obviously consider whether we want to really consider the outcome of that consultation. I suspect we will, as part of the bill scrutiny period. Okay, so we think from what we heard last week, that timing is going to be around January of next year. I don't imagine we'll get through everything by January of next year. I shouldn't imagine that the department will be particularly concerned about that, as this bill will go through. There's no particular rush in terms of the timings. There's plenty of scope left in terms of legislative time for this. I suppose all I want to ask the committee regarding that is, are we happy to schedule some oral evidence on the outcome of the consultation once it's concluded?
Please.
Yeah, Harry, do you want to?
Yeah, 100%, Chair. I mean, I think the SUDS, it makes a lot of sense, even what it's trying to do, basically gather the water and divert it to its original path after building has taken place. So I think it's definitely something well worth exploring.
No, that's very useful. Thank you, Harry. I mean, clearly, because SUDS are so mission critical to the bill that we're going to be scrutinising, I think what that consultation says and what it looks like will be particularly useful. So I think we're agreed on that. Item 10 is subordinate legislation, and there are 4 statutory rules that are not subject to Assembly proceedings and are not required to be laid, and they are at pages 311 to 321 of the meeting pack, and they are SR 2025/144, the Cycle Routes Amendment Order Northern Ireland 2025. SR 2025/145, the Loading Bays on Roads Amendment Order Northern Ireland 2025. SR 2025/146, the Parking Places Disabled Persons Vehicles Amendment Number 4 Order Northern Ireland 2025. And the SR 2025/147, the Parking Places on Roads, Loading Bays and Waiting Restrictions Newcastle Amendment Order Northern Ireland 2025. And we noted the proposals of these SRs at our meeting on the 10th of September 2025. Are members content to note these statutory rules?
Content.
Okay. In terms of SLs, there is one proposal SL for statutory rules that is not subject to Assembly proceedings and therefore is not required to be laid. This is on page 325 of our pack, and it is SL1, the Prohibition of Waiting Schools Amendment Order Northern Ireland 2025. Do members have any issues they wish to raise regarding that SL? And if not, are members content with the proposal for the statutory rule?
Content.
Okay.
Sure.
That takes us on to point 12, which is the Forward Work Programme. It's on page 330 of PACS. There's a suggestion that I have regarding this, and I had some chance to have a chat with Michael regarding this. Because there has been a fairly significant turnover of members, notwithstanding the chairs included in that, and new members to the committee, I was going to suggest that we may want to undertake a level of strategic planning to set out some objectives for the rest of the mandate. It's not to necessarily change anything, but maybe just a review of that. And as such, would committee be agreed to look at maybe a strategic planning session in the Forward Work Programme and commission RAISE to have a look at a general environmental scan? And I don't mean that in terms of the environment with a G, a small g, in terms of the green environment. I mean the the entire environment, the strategic environment that the department has responsibility for. Would the members be happy enough with that?
Yes, Chair.
Yeah. Okay. We will go ahead to do that. And just one more thing then on forward work programme. Just agreement to proceed with the evidence sessions as set out in the draft forward work programme and to reflect any decisions that we've taken today. Are members content with forward work programme in general terms? Yeah.
Great.
Okay, brilliant. Item 13 is AOB. Do members have any AOB they want to raise today?
Sir, just a simple thing on page 310 on the SRs that we just discussed there. I would maybe like to wee look at the discussions we'd had in those, if that was possible. Wasn't
Okay,
on
I'll
the
just
committee
get
at that
to
time.
310. I'm
that's
sure that
okay,
can be
Clerk.
facilitated.
Just a bit interested, that's all.
Yep, okay.
Thank you.
We'll make sure we can do that. Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
get in touch with you.
Brilliant. Okay, which takes us to item, if no one else has any other AOB, takes us to item 14, which is date, time, and location of next meeting. Are members happy enough that the next meeting will take place at 10 a.m. on Wednesday, the 1st of October 2025 in room 29 in Parliament Buildings? Okay, then the meeting is adjourned.
Committee Room 29. Sound.